A very good afternoon and welcome to the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia. For the first time in 2 years, would you believe, so good to be back in this region once again and back at our famous final fireworks venue. This is it, round 22 of 22. Can you believe it, Lewis? We're finally here at the end of the year. What a year it's been as well. Myself, Jack Appleyard and Louis Suddaby are going to reflect over what we've seen over the past 9 months here on the final Grand Prix gear up of the year before the official press conference to kick off this season finale is about to get underway at 4 o'clock in around half an hour's time with Marco Bezzecchi, Pecco Bagnaia and Pedro Acosta. And we are, of course, outside the Aprilia garage after Marco Bezzecchi got that fully deserved second Grand Prix victory of the year just 4 days ago in Portimao to all but secure third place in the World Championship. It seems strange to say that it's only victory number 2 in the Grand Prix format for Bez this year, given the performances, the domination he's shown over recent weeks. It really has been a huge indicator of what we can expect from all of these guys and girls down here at Aprilia in 2026. But what a performance, what a turnaround from what we saw on the Saturday and on the Friday. He'd never looked at any stage on Friday and Saturday like he'd had that kind of an advantage, but in the end, made it look easy on Sunday.
Yeah, and given some of the victories that he's let pass him by in the second half of the season, that one meant a lot for Marco Bezzecchi. He'd won 3 sprints since his last Grand Prix win back at Silverstone, and even that one was slightly fortuitous when Quartararo's ride-height device failed on him. He's been clearly, I would say, the fastest rider and fastest rider-bike combination over the second half of this season, allowing, of course, the fact that Marc Marquez hasn't been here for most of that, but he pushed them all the way in Misano, so it was clear that already, even with Marc Marquez here, that they were a genuine threat for them. And what he, speaking to him earlier on, what he seemed to really do over the course of Saturday and Sunday yesterday, it wasn't so much, they did make a step with the bike quite clearly, but it was also a step from Marco. Of course, he spent all of the sprint riding behind Alex Marquez and Pedro Acosta. The best seat in the house for one of the battles of the season, no question about that. It was an incredible battle head-to-head between Acosta and Alex Marquez. He was studying what they were particularly good at over the course of the sprint and able to make some steps forward. And he said that he was riding much more calmly in the Sunday. He wasn't as tense as he perhaps was in the sprint on the Saturday. He was a bit more free on the bike, and that clearly made a big difference. We got the warning shot in the morning warm-up when he was half a second clear of the entire field. It kind of caught our attention then. Hey, Marco's come and he means business on this Sunday morning, but I didn't think even then we expected him to dominate to the extent that he did. But as soon as he kept Pedro Acosta behind him on the first lap, and once it became clear after 3 or 4 laps that Alex Marquez didn't have the pace to go with him in those early stages, there was only one winner. And
you have to give huge credit to Aprilia this year. I was just having a very quick catch-up with Paolo Bonora before we came on air here, and I said, is this a circuit that, you know, you think you can be competitive at? And he said, Jack, to be perfectly honest, all of the circuits that over the past few years we might have looked at on paper and gone, okay, this is an Aprilia track, this isn't an Aprilia track. Suddenly, that's not the case anymore. The work that they've done, this bike is as well-rounded as it has been for many a year, where they go into every circuit with genuine confidence and belief that they become competitive, whatever the challenge is that that particular venue will throw at them. For example, in previous years here, they've struggled in the tight middle part of the track when it's hard braking. There's not a lot of fast-flowing corners to allow the Aprilia to really showcase its one true strength. But despite that, they feel that once again here this weekend, they've got a bike that can fight for victories.
And Marco Bezzecchi in the form of his MotoGP career, no mistake about that. The last MotoGP pole position to be taken here was taken by an Aprilia rider, a rider we're going to hear from in this show, Maverick Vinales, even if he didn't end up starting for reasons that we're not going to bore you with here. So there's no question that Aprilia in that time, since 2023, are much stronger than they were. They've got a much more rounded motorcycle, as you say. And what it's done is it's propelled Marco Bezzecchi to a position where, even with his eyes closed here this weekend, he's surely going to clinch third in the World Championship. He only needs to score 3 points this weekend. 7th in the sprint will do it for Marco Bezzecchi. And that's on the basis that Pecco Bagnaia does the double, which feels like a long way away from him at the moment. And I think that would be just reward for the work they've done throughout this season. Because think about where Aprilia were at the start of the season, when they couldn't really get a qualifying lap out of this RSGP. They couldn't really get the tyres switched on in qualifying trim. We saw early signs from as early as the first Grand Prix of the season when Igor was 5th that Aprilia was a good race bike, but they couldn't get themselves up the grid. They've now fixed that, and they still have that clear strength on Sundays.
And huge credit has to go to the way in which they've worked as a team, as a unit this year. So often in previous years, on a Friday, we'd be saying Aprilia 1-2. But the thing is, they then found their level and weren't able to moved beyond that, which allowed a lot of the competitors in previous years to first catch up and then surpass them. But this year, through a slightly changing team dynamic in how they approach race weekends, they've been able to slowly build throughout the weekend where they are bringing the best out of their motorcycle when it matters on a Sunday. So you've got to give them credit for the way in which they've evolved this year to be able to do that. And you might be able to see that we've switched from Marco Bezzecchi behind us to the returning, I'm pleased to say, world champion. We can still call him that, can we?
Yeah.
Not until Marc
Still
Marquez.
got the number one.
Absolutely. The number one for this weekend. What a year it's been for Jorge Martin. A year that had so much promise at the start of it. And in the end, it's been a year from hell.
Yeah, I don't think there's any finer way to put it than that. We're going to hear from him shortly. Caught up with him earlier in the day. There is a genuine level of relief, I think, for Jorge Martin to be back in action. Dearly wanted to see the end of the season in front of his home fans. Yeah, it has been a season for hell. Every time it feels like Jorge Martin has got over that final hurdle and been able to get his season up and running, a new hurdle has been thrown in his face. Of course, the most recent injury is because of a crash with his teammate Marco Bezzecchi in the sprint in Motegi. It is worth pointing out he does have a double long lap penalty to serve for that this weekend. Don't think that comes as any great surprise, but I'm not sure that's even in Jorge Martin's thoughts here this weekend. He just needs laps on the bike, and it's really, I guess, the start of his 2026 season this weekend. Yeah,
absolutely. Of course, huge test on Tuesday, which we'll be bringing you live and exclusive coverage on MotoGP.com, so make sure you do tune in for that. But you sort of feel that this weekend with Jorge Martin just over our left-hand shoulder here, having done some media interviews with our Italian media colleagues, this is just a preamble to that. Get himself fit, get himself ready, and look towards 2026. But as you mentioned, a slightly suspect character went to catch up with him earlier on today and ask him a few questions. So here is Lewis with Jorge.
Jorge, welcome back. Very good to see you back. I guess the emotions and the motivation to get back must have been super high. So how does it feel now to be declared fit?
Yeah, for sure nice to be declared fit, to be here in Valencia for the last round. For sure was a really tough season, but I wanted to end the season, no? To be here, to make some laps, to try to race on Sunday. This is my target, and to start preparing 2026. That's why I'm here. I was working a lot in the shadows to try to be here today, and yeah, we achieved it. So this is the first step. Now we need to go on the bike. It's been 6 weeks since Japan, where I didn't ride, so it will be tough to go again on a MotoGP bike.
I know you've had a lot of experience this year of recovering from injuries. How did this one compare? How difficult was the rehabilitation?
So, I mean, was tough. Was more difficult than what I expected, but I think injuries are always worse than what you expect. So yeah, I had some problems to recover, but I feel much better now. I think mentally it was a bit strange because already finishing the season, I didn't know if I wanted to come here or just wait for next season, but I wanted to be again with my team, with my crew, and also with the fans here in Spain was so important for me to come. So yeah, I will try to enjoy the weekend, and yeah, then I will continue my recovery process towards the February test.
Were you even more excited to come back, seeing the results while you've been away, seeing Marco win last time out, seeing Raul win in Australia as well? Marco's had some poles, he's had some sprints, so the bike is clearly quick.
For sure, the bike is fitting to their styles. This we can be sure. I just need to get some time to make the Aprilia mine, no? Because for sure there were some good results, let's say, for me during the small season I did. But still I was far away in terms of performance, so I need time. For sure I'm optimistic for next season, so that's why I'm here to try to start building some feelings and to be more ready next season.
Just finally a word on the penalty. I guess you knew that was probably coming after what happened in Japan, so does that in any way affect your approach this weekend? I guess it's laps that you need rather than the result.
No, I mean, for sure, yeah. I mean, I put in some risks to other riders. I did a mistake, and I absolutely agree with the penalty. This should be punished, and maybe it's even better for me because I know I don't have any pressure to make any result. Just make laps. Yeah, let's see. Maybe I don't even do a time attack during the weekend, so just relax.
Well, it's great to see the number one back. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there we go, Jorge Martin just saying, understandably, how frustrated he was to be sat at home watching an Aprilia be the fastest motorcycle in Indonesia, a circuit he loves, go on to victory in the sprint and the Grand Prix at Phillip Island, a circuit that he loves. I'm sure he, like many of us, were watching those Grand Prix thinking, if Jorge Martin was here, what could he have done? But that is the thing with 2025 and Jorge Martin. Unfortunately, it's just a massive if.
Yeah, it is. We know how super strong he's generally been over qualifying laps, and I think that's what I'm interested to see. He said at the end there, maybe I won't do a time attack over the whole weekend because the result isn't really his main concern. Surely he will, because that was the big area that he needed to work on, really. There was pretty clear signs through Hungary, especially a circuit that we didn't expect to see much overtaking on, and Jorge Martin came through from way back on the grid to finish up in the top 8. So his race pace already seems to be at a pretty high level. It's just getting himself in tune, getting a qualifying lap out of the Aprilia, which was Marco Bezzecchi's problem right at the start of the season. So I think that will be a clear area that Jorge Martin wants to work on over this weekend and the test. And it was clear, as you heard from him there, that this whole return was with a view to the test on Tuesday, where we'll have a full day to work on the bike, to work on what he wants to work on. Because even when we saw him pre-injury, the last injury, he was still sort of working away with areas on the bike that you'd really be trying to get out of the way in pre-season testing, riding position, ergonomics on the bike, still trying to get himself fully comfortable just on board that RSJP, even before you start thinking about the perfect setup and about getting the absolute maximum out of it. As I said to him there, the bike is clearly quick, but Jorge Martin hasn't really got it to suit him yet.
It's one of the most, of course, we're here at the final round of 2025. Obviously, we look forward to 2026, and I think that question is one of the most interesting going into 2026. Now that we see the capabilities of the Aprilia, there's no denying that that is a bike capable of fighting for race victories, fighting for a world championship. What can a fully fit Jorge Martin do on that motorcycle? And I, for one, cannot wait to see. Hopefully, he's got all of the bad luck out of his way this year, and 2026 is his opportunity to show everybody why he was world champion. Because I think if that combination can match, should be explosive.
Yeah, it should be a really explosive combination. Only got 13, 14 laps into pre-season testing this year before it all started to go wrong for him. So I guess there'll be an element of nervousness about Jorge Martin over this winter, just to try and keep himself fully fit and get himself to that first round in Buriram at the end of February next season with a bike that you can't imagine the Aprilia is going to be too far away from the very front of MotoGP on current form. Ducati have got some questions to answer over this winter break. You could argue at the moment the manufacturer with the least to answer is Aprilia, because they've got a bike that seems to work, apart from maybe at Sepang at the moment, at most venues, in most conditions. And of course, you can argue they've not had their trump card on that bike yet. Their best performance part might well be Jorge Martin in his very best form. So yeah, I think it's going to be very exciting to see how quickly Jorge Martin can get himself into a position where he suits the bike and the bike suits him, and to see just how good this Marco Bezzecchi run has been in the second half of the season. This the bike got even more left in it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great yardstick to have as a teammate at the moment. That's all to look forward to next year, of course, which does start officially on Tuesday. We mentioned Ducati there. We fully expect them to be up there fighting at the front once again, as we see Aleix Espargaro walking past. Wildcard appearance for him this weekend. In fact, let's talk Honda, shall we, since he's there, because 2 reasons for us to be watching Honda this weekend. 9 points is all they need to move up 1 concessions rank, which I know for some at home might be sort of a little bit too complicated, but quite important in the fact that that will reduce the number of testing days that they're allowed to have in terms of the tyres. Means that the factory riders won't be able to test. They won't be able to change their engine mid-season, nor will they get the same amount of aerodynamics upgrade. So it's quite a change for them to have to lose that bottom rank concessions, which allows them to have all of those positives. And it begs the question, what kind of a weekend are we going to see from Honda? Because obviously, if they're in the podium hunt, which we've seen at both Japan and Sepang, then go out there and do the best you can. It's more of a challenging weekend. Do you think there's the possibility that Alberto Puig thinks big picture and goes, what's the difference between an 8th place finish and a 12th place finish? Let's make sure we keep those concessions. I personally don't think that would happen.
No.
But you know, it could come into the thinking.
Well, the concessions are locked in. Once this season finishes, the concessions tiers are locked in until midway through next season. So if they do, even if they fall 1 point short of the concessions C band, they'll be stuck in that concessions band until midway through next season, which could be a real advantage for them in the early part of next season. But speaking to Luca Marini earlier on, there's a video on MotoGP.com, I believe it's up there now, of Marini, Mir and Zarco. I asked all three of them about this earlier today. Luca Marini says it's been a clear target of Honda since the summer break. They desperately want to get out of this concessions ban. Marini thinks they're ready to take that next step, to have the, I guess, level playing field or leveler playing field with the rest of MotoGP, because their bike is at a level already where it's able to compete for podiums. Joan Mir is absolutely buzzing if they can get out of this concession ban, because he'll get some more days off. He doesn't have to test between Grand Prix. That's what he's looking forward to. Johan Zarco, he's got his own priorities this weekend, because he wants to finish in the top 10 in the World Championship, which is still an option for him this weekend. There's a battle between him, Ralph Fernandez and Brad Binder, all fighting for a top 10 spot in the World Championship, which Zarco wants to achieve. And of course, potentially end the season as the top Honda rider in the World Championship as well, which would come with its level of kudos. So I think on balance, Honda, I think, will take the limited concessions they'll get next season if they earn it, because ultimately they have earned it, and it's a sign of their progress. And everything that we hear behind the scenes about that 2026 bike that they've got ready indicates that it's quick.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to go on to next. Aleix Espargaro here this weekend to get himself dialed in, to get himself up to speed, ahead of then, along with Joan Mir and Luca Marini, debuting that 2026 machine, which by all accounts sounds like it's a bit of a weapon, and Honda are really starting to move their targets and their aspirations further and further towards the front. They think that that bike they've got, which we'll see on Tuesday, is capable in a regular podium contender.
Well, the field is so close nowadays in MotoGP. Of course, this is a field without Marc Marquez, of course, which may change the picture when we see him back fit next season. But all it takes nowadays is a tenth of a second on a Friday, and you can completely change your weekend. You can move yourself from outside the top 10 to fighting for the top 3, top 4. We have seen Hondas on the front row already this season with Joan Mir. We saw them just off the front row last weekend in Portimao. They were 6th and 7th on the grid, Zarco and Mir, before Mir's weekend went completely wrong as soon as the racing started. He had problems in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. Did one racing lap across the pair of them. So yeah, there's no question that we've seen that Honda at enough circuits now, enough different conditions. Joan Mir was on the podium in not absolutely stinking hot conditions at Bategi, but a stop-and-go layout. We then went to Sepang, which is a circuit, very technical, challenges just about every facet of a motorcycle, which is why they always test there, and Mir again on the podium. So they've got an all-round motorcycle that works just about everywhere, and I guess the next step for them, as you say, is to fight for regular podiums and even win a Grand Prix. And I think Honda's target for 2026, their premier target will be win a Grand Prix.
It's not out of the question, that's for sure. KTM, we're going to speak to Maverick Vinales now. We'll touch on Pedro Acosta, because I think he's got great chances this weekend. But before that, great to welcome back for the first time in a long time, Maverick Vinales. Maverick, first of all, great to see you back.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really happy to be back. Obviously, feeling full of energy for this last round, and very happy to feel much better.
Of course, the rehabilitation process has taken some time. You've done a lot of work, not only at home, but in Austria, at the Red Bull Centre as well. So how has that process gone along, and how fit do you feel now?
The process is quite slow, especially because we know that this type of injury is 6 months, so we cannot cut this time. We try, but no, especially all the mobility, it needs a long period to give it back. But I think that to ride the bike is enough. For sure, I don't know how I'm gonna feel on the MotoGP, but I ride different kind of bikes, and I was feeling really good with a lot of flow. So I'm aiming to find the same feeling on the MotoGP.
I'm sure you've been following very closely what's been happening while you've been away, watching from home. So how do you assess the progress that KTM have made since you were away?
I see from home a lot of opportunities to win races. That also this was the thing that was making me more upset, to be honest, because there was a really good opportunities like Phillip Island and some other races. But I've seen a good progress, some consistency, especially on Pedro's side. So this always gives a good energy when you come back. Yes.
Yeah, how impressed have you been with Pedro's level at the moment? I think arguably he's the strongest rider in the last 4 or 5 Grand Prix. He's been on the podium in a lot of Grand Prix and sprints. Just from seeing what you see of the data and obviously knowing what you know about the bike, just how high a level is Pedro riding at the moment?
I'm not surprised. Obviously, even though when I was in an injury, we have it. The problem that we were very quick, but there was Marc and Pecco that also were very quick. So I was always 4th or 5th. Now I think there was an opportunity to be always on the podium, and seems that with this lacking Marc and lacking some others, looks like nobody was taking. Unfortunately for us, Aprilia was very strong. So there was some chance to win races. And most important is that Pedro show also to the other riders from KTM that you can be there. So we will try all together to be strong, and especially from my side, I have a lot of motivation. I know what the bike is capable of, so I'm gonna push.
Of course, this an emotional weekend for the team. Hervé's final one. So what's the emotions like in the box ahead of it? I'm sure you'll be wanting to put on a show for Hervé, who's obviously played such a huge part of this paddock for so many years.
Yes, Hervé has been the face of this paddock for many, many years. I know him since a long time. So we were teammates in the era of Yamaha, and also now for this year I was joining the team. Great person, honestly one of the ones I love the most in the paddock. So yeah, it will be emotional for sure, and I just want to give him a good luck in the next step. I hope he take a vacation because I think he deserves. I don't know how many years he's been on the paddock, but when he always speak to me, he's like 80 something. I said like, oh, okay, it's a long time. So yeah, I was very happy to join Hervé team, and I really found it really positive experience.
And Tuesday, a new era of KTM got some surprises for us.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I'm just concentrate on Friday FP1. I need to be practice by practice, concentrate, trying to understand the level I am. But yeah, I have a lot of energy to really push this weekend.
Well, great to see you back. Hopefully it's a good one, Maverick.
Thank you.
There we go. Great to chat with Maverick Vinales. Great to see him back. And God, we speak about bad luck and what Jorge Martin's had. Maverick, what he's saying there is absolutely right. He was the one that found the direction for the KTM. He was the one that was setting the standard at KTM. He had some magnificent results in Qatar, in Jerez, when if you take Mark and Pecco out of the equation, which is, as he says, has been the case of recent weeks, he would have been right there fighting for victory. That crash, it's just an innocuous one in tricky conditions at the Saxon Ring, could not have come at the worst time and completely derailed what up to that point had been a tremendous season.
Yeah, really, really good season. Yeah, top KTM back in Jerez when he was just off the podium, as you say, that Qatar podium, which will still count him as a podium finisher, as Pedro Acosta's now coming to join us. Pedro's on his way to the press conference, so he's making sure he's right on time for that. Matt Butt's already up there waiting for him. But yeah, KTM, Pedro Acosta's been carrying them on their back recently, but Maverick Vinales was, I guess, doing that earlier on in the season. And when you consider where he was in pre-season testing, he and Enea Bastianini were kind of in a similar boat in pre-season testing, both really struggling to adapt to the Aprilia as it is now. Enea Bastianini, in some respects, has made a step forward. Certainly in races, he's very, very strong. But in Friday and Saturday, particularly in qualifying, Enea Bastianini still can't get that qualifying time out of it. It still feels like he's riding a KTM for the first time, whereas Maverick Vinales has been able to make that step forward from the beginning of a weekend and be competitive from the get-go. Don't expect him necessarily to be that competitive from the get-go here this weekend, because much like Jorge Martin, this is all just about laps on the bike, just getting the reps essentially back, because he's returning from a serious injury, more serious than perhaps any of us realised at the time, and looking ahead to Tuesday and thinking about next season when hopefully we'll be fully fit again.
Absolutely. You speak to Akiai, you speak to anybody in the team. Maverick Vinales laid the groundwork, which is now allowing Pedro Acosta to have the results that he's having. And this circuit, the layout, I think could suit Pedro. Anti-clockwise, he's always had a great record there. Tight and twisty in the middle, which has always suited the KTM. Not a lot of fast-flowing corners, so I think this could be as much of an opportunity as Portimao. So we'll have to see. Certainly he's going to be up there with Alex Marquez, who, of course, wrapped up second in the World Championship. He said this weekend is a present, it's a gift. It's going to be a sellout crowd on Sunday. Nobody will be as motivated as Alex to try and put on a show after all of the love that he will no doubt get from the Spanish home crowd after the year that he's had.
Well, he's had a pretty good record on the Spanish soil this season, hasn't he? Won in Jerez earlier in the season, won in Barcelona as well. So there's no question that Alex Marquez is going to be a race-winning contender here this weekend. Maybe smarting a little bit from the manner of how he was beaten by Marco Bezzecchi in such comprehensive circumstances on the Sunday. But yeah, as you say, absolutely no pressure on his shoulders this weekend. Alex Marquez could just go out there and go for it. And he will have his older brother here watching him here on Saturday and Sunday as well. So I'm sure Alex will want to win with his brother in the box and on the pit wall cheering him on.
Absolutely, and the pair of them have got their tuxedos, as have I as well. Don't forget the MotoGP award show is coming to you from 6:30 live at the circuit on Sunday evening, so do make sure you tune in for that with none other than a Latin Grammy Award winning artiste in the form of Daddy Yankee performing live for us as well. So lots to look forward to on Sunday night. We've mentioned Ducati there. For us on Tuesday, is there as much excitement, as much anticipation of what they bring on Tuesday to see if they have finally found an answer to Pecco Bagnaия's problems, because it feels as though that Tuesday test is pivotal for a lot of factories. But for Bagnaia and Ducati in particular, it feels massive.
If Pecco Bagnaia jumps off that Ducati on Tuesday evening and he's not happy, it's going to be a long, long winter for him, because he's going to be going through the entire winter thinking, I've seen this movie before and I don't fancy a sequel of it in 2026. I spoke to Davide Tarozzi earlier on today and asked him how he described Pecco Bagnaia's season. He said, painful, in a word, painful. Because yes, there have been those infrequent weekends where he's been unbeatable, Motegi unbelievable. In some respects though, that's made Pecco Bagnaia's situation worse, because he's now seen how strong he can be but doesn't really understand how they got there or how to get that form back again. Bagnaia wasn't exactly slow in general terms in Portimao, but he just did not have the pace at all to go with the top three, who were the clear top three throughout the entire weekend. Alex Marquez, Pedro Costa and Marco Bezzecchi, the ultimate winner. Bagnaia was going to be a distant fourth if he'd seen the checkered flag in Portimao, which give him 13 points. He'd still be 22 behind Marco Bezzecchi and still a long shot at best to finish third in the World Championship. He may not even finish fourth by the end of this weekend. No,
he could well finish fifth in the World Championship. And yes, when you add context, it's not as bad as this sounds because of the puncture in Sepang, because of the pace that he had in Portimao before he crashed. But the facts are, it's now 4 straight Grand Prix without seeing the checkered flag for the first time since his rookie campaign, and that just hammers home at this pivotal part of the season when he needed to find some momentum, something to give him just a glimmer of hope going into next year. He hasn't found that of late, so it's a massive weekend for him. And for Yamaha, all eyes once again will be on Augusto Fernandez, who for the third time is wildcarding with that V4 project. We fully anticipate either during the course of the weekend or maybe on Monday ahead of Tuesday's test that Yamaha will confirm that they are going for the V4 project in 2026. All indications are that is the direction they're going in. Of course, then the big question mark comes on Tuesday. Has it made enough progress to put a smile on Fabio Quartararo's face? And when I spoke to Jack Miller earlier, he said, don't be expecting any flashy lap times, because that bike is still in progress. It's still starting to come together piece by piece. It's by no means the finished article, which means I don't think Quartararo is going to be best pleased come Tuesday, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, feels like another massive day for the Iwata factory.
Yeah, they've still not turned that bike all the way up to 11 yet, and it doesn't feel like they're going to for quite some time, which isn't going to cut the Quartararo mustard, is it? You've got to say, at this stage, given the decision he's going to have to make over the course of potentially the winter, how far into 2026 dare Quartararo leave it before he makes a decision on his future, particularly if some plum seats get filled up for 2027. Yeah, I spoke to Mario Meregali earlier on today, and he was not writing off the first half of next season, but reading between the lines, he was essentially saying we may have to use the first half of next season as a little bit of a development phase to continue the development on this V4, and then we can really go for big results in the second half of next season. Fabio Quartararo is not going to want to wait around that long.
No, he's not. He said that in the cold light of day, in black and white. I'm going to be making my decision early for 2027. And
if he stays with Yamaha on that basis, he's guessing.
Yeah, he is. And to be fair, for the most part, everybody's going to be guessing going into 2027, but I think you can get an idea of which factories, which projects are trending in the right direction. And already there's some pretty hot rumours, as you would imagine at this time of the year, linking Fabio Quartararo with Honda. It feels as though Honda is one of the plum seats to be on for 2027 with all of the progress they've made this year, with all of the financial investment that they're making. Honda are very, very serious about getting back to the top and reclaiming the MotoGP World Championship, and it feels as though they're going to be opening up that checkbook and making sure they can get hold of at least one, maybe two riders that can guarantee them a chance at fighting for that World Championship. So a couple of minutes before we hand over to the press conference, let's look at the favourites for this weekend then. Again, no Marc Marquez, so it is wide open. Is it going to be the big three, you think? Bez, Marquez and Acosta, or can we see some others get in the mix?
Yeah, I think they're going to be the big favourites. Fabian Aldeguez, someone who I think might well just muscle in on that as well, on the Gresini, Ducati. But of those big three, I think you've got to say Marco Bezzecchi starts the weekend as the clear favourite, and of course third in the World Championship. If he does take a result on Saturday, third in the World Championship, already his.
Absolutely. So there we go then. gear up done for 2025. Myself and Lewis, well, we'll be back in action for After the Flag on Sunday, and we'll be with you for the test on Tuesday. There's only the small matter of round 22 of 22 in between it to kick it all off. Matt Burt is joined by the men fighting for third in the World Championship, Marco Bezzecchi, Pecco Bagnaia and Pedro Acosta.